viewers, welcome back. Today we are talking about Andy Timmons' dual delay. I've had the Quad Cortex for a while and I've been playing around with the dual delays. Of course, there's been it was a big show, I think, on that pedal show with whoever it is on there. They're really famous, aren't they? Dan and Mick. And actually a not so famous YouTuber by the name of John Cordy, who is great, by the way. You should give him a subscribe if you can. Also did some Andy Timmons delays, so I thought I'd have a go at it myself. Not that I'm going to add anything to those guys in terms of playing or knowledge, but perhaps we can do some more detail on it. And you know, it's all interesting if you are interested in that Andy Timmons delay. If you are looking for a delay that can replace the Halo pedal, well, what I've been discovering this morning is that a lot of things can do it. You just have to spend a little bit of time dialing it in. The key things about Andy Timmons dual delay, well, if you've searched the forums, you'll know the answer to this. So let me see, I'm going to put it up on the screen. Two delays in parallel. It's not 100% clear whether it's series or parallel, but Andy tends to run 2 amps in stereo, certainly when he's doing pedal demos. And he always says 500 milliseconds on one side and 375 on the other. There is some debate on this. Of course, he used to run 2 Electro-Harmonix Memory Men pedals beforehand, and he doesn't now. He runs a timeline. I've got a timeline here and I'm going to show you what I can get to. Now, he doesn't actually publish his timeline settings altogether, but in the dual delay mode, the timeline can only do dual delay in one mode. There aren't that many settings to play with. So actually, I think I must be close to his settings on the timeline because there isn't much to play with. I've had a go on the Quad Cortex, and you're going to see that in detail when I get to the end part of this video, where I'm going to do tons of settings, loads of screens, loads of knob twiddling. When I get to that part, you'll see I've tried at least three different ways of doing it on the Quad Cortex. One is with the inbuilt dual delay module. The other is with 2 analog delays in parallel on a split. The other is with 2 tape delays in parallel on a split. The other equipment I've got here to try back to back is a Strymon timeline, of course, because that was Andy's choice for many years. I've got a Boss DD200. See what you think in a minute. Previously on my analog delay review, I said the Boss DD200 was great. Not so much today. It's not really all that great. And then I've got a Free the Tone Future Factory, which is a dual delay from a super boutique builder. I do actually have the HX effects as well, but I ran out of time. I'd love to put the HX effects up against this because I do think the HX effects on the chorus settings really did an excellent job. So let's get to it. Here is the dual delay on its own. Here are the dual analog delays. delays. Here's the Strymon timeline. Here's the Future Factory. Here's the Boss DD200. And here's a surprise bonus. Here's the modulated reverb, no delays at all. I'd be really interested to hear your views on this, which you thought was better and why. Any ideas that you've had and other successes with other pedals that you've had that you think I should try. Thanks. Okay, so after watching that, what did you think? Leave a comment below. It's so hard to tell them apart. I think the biggest conclusion that I've got from this shootout is that if you try, you can make delays or dual delays sound like that Halo sound if you really try. I'd just like to mention the modulated reverb does a not too bad job. It doesn't have the complexity of the delay, but it gives you that bed of sound underneath your playing, which makes everything sound so good. Let's start with the timeline. The timeline had a hi-fi sounding vibe to me, and if you like that kind of thing, then great. It didn't really suit me. One of the things I noticed was that you could really hear the attack of the repeats, and that's something I don't want to hear when I've got this bed of sound that I want underneath my playing. And that's something that the Halo pedal appears to do so well in all of the online demos. Next up, I suppose we'd better mention the Boss DD200. I suppose in its favour you could say that it just shows you don't need an expensive delay pedal to get somewhere near the tone. But for me, in this company, it didn't sound up to the standard of the other delays. The Free the Tone Future Factory sounded great to me, and it had just the right mix between clarity and punch, and also the ability to sit in the background. And that brings me on to the Quad Cortex. I thought all of the sounds in the Quad Cortex were very good. In fact, probably overall, the dual delay module itself was the best. This kind of surprises me because it doesn't have a huge amount of character. So if anything, I'd like the Quad Cortex to have more interest. But as a basic sound, it was really good. As you probably saw when I did the knob tweaking, what I've done on the Quad Cortex is I'm able to control the high end, and that removes the percussive pick that you can hear. It removes that percussive sound and allows the sound to sit underneath. So in the end, I think the Cortex does an excellent job, but all of these delays could get you there. I don't think there's any need to go out and buy that Keeley Halo pedal, although, to be honest, I slightly do want to go and buy it. The other thing I'd like to mention is the way that Andy uses an expression pedal to control the mix. I've deliberately put the mix quite high on a lot of these settings, and they would get in the way of your playing if they were on all of the time, or in certain types or styles of music. So having an expression pedal to control the size of the mix is really important if you want to get that halo sound and be able to use it. Okay, well, if you've got this far, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again in a future video. Okay, we've made it to the knob tweaking part of the demo. So let's have a look at this dual delay preset that I've set up. So first of all, let's just talk you quickly through the signal chain. I've got a compressor. I've got obviously the Lone Star model running, and there's a cat. Nothing much to say. So then I've got these modules. Now they're set up just to show you the scenes. This one is the dual delay module. If I select scene A, it goes to the dual analog delay. Come back to that. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And if I select scene C, it goes to the dual tape delays. And if I select scene D, it goes to the effects loop. If I select scene E, it goes to the reverb. And if I select scene F, it goes completely dry. So here's the dry signal. Honestly, that sounds a little bit scary. So let's just have a look at some tweaking here. So we're going to start from the left. So here is the dual delay module. Now you can hear how that creates a bed underneath the sound of my guitar. If I hit the strings, just you can hear the rhythm. And just to show you that this is the same on all of them, if I switch between the scenes, here's the analog, here's the tape, and if I go to the effects loop, here for example is the Future Factory. So they are all set on that same 500 375 in parallel. Now actually on the dual delay I've given it a 10% chance of going serial, but that's just to give it a bit of interest in the sound. I've also got, as you can see here on the screen, the mix connected to an expression pedal. Look at that, the expression pedals are not exactly perfect on the Quad Cortex. It's slightly improved now that I've just done it backwards and forwards. So this is a very big mix. So now most of the time you can't hear the attack repeating. Anyway, let's just go back to some of the main settings. So as we said before, 500 375. There's a lot of feedback on this. Now, high pass, that means everything above this is going to pass through. Now actually on the default is 120, but I set it as low as possible to bring some low end in. And also this is set on 1000, but actually the default is 3000. But you can hear straight away you get a lot more of the initial attack repeats sounding through. The mod rate I've just slightly increased. That's probably random, but the one thing I do want to mention is the mod depth. Now, Andy himself in a recent interview said he likes it to sound just slightly out of tune. So the mod depth is a bit higher than I would go normally. And that's just to get that slightly out of tune sound going. So those are the settings in the dual delay, and I think it does a really nice job. So let's switch over to the next, which is the analog delays. Now I'm not going to show you both settings, but basically what I've done is set them both exactly the same. So this also has a very high mix. This one has a delay time of 500 and the other one has a delay of 375, as you can see. Very high feedback. I've done the same with the high pass and the low pass. Set the high pass for 20 Hertz and the low pass for 1000. I think that's as low as it will go on the analog delay. I've also set the mod depth a little bit higher, but on this analog delay, if you go too high, it gets seasick pretty quickly. The other thing is I've set the drive high. That's just to give it a bit of organic feeling to it. The drive doesn't do much on these, as you probably know, but just want to give it a little bit less of a hi-fi vibe. And again, the whole purpose of adding the drive in is so that we can try to get the delay repeats to be a bed underneath our playing. Okay, let's move on to preset scene C. This is the tape delays. Now, on this one, I've set the wow really high because the wow tends to cut off the attack of the note. And there isn't a specific modulation setting on the tape delay, so I'm using the flutter to add in some modulation. So if I just play some chords, and what I'll do right now is I'm going to go back to back between those different settings. So start with the dual delay module itself. The Future Factory is in the loop at the moment. Let's put the boss into the loop. Let's put the timeline in the effects loop now. I've just turned the mix up on the timeline.